Here's an example in which we're simplifying and writing the trig expression in terms of sines and cosines. Okay, so I've got tangent of u plus cotangent of u. And I want to write it as 1 over something. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's go find tangent and cotangent on our formula sheet. Here they are. Cotangent is cosine over sine, and here it is tangent. Let me do that again. So cotan is cosine over sine, and tangent is sine over cosine. All right, bring those back. And whoop, I'm in the wrong problem. There we go. And we'll use that. All right, so the tangent, first off, I'll take the tangent. That's sine of u over cosine of u. And then the cotangent is plus, and then the cotangent is the cosine of u all over the sine of u. Okay, now is when things get a little tricky. So we use the definition there, but now what are we going to do? Well, let me write a note for you. When we have fractions added or subtracted, we get a common denom, right? By multiplying top and bottom by the other denominator. So this one has a sign, so that means I'm going to go over here and multiply top and bottom by sine. So I'll say, okay, so multiply top and bottom by sine of u. And then this one has a cosine, so I'm going to go to the other one, right? Multiply top and bottom by the other denominator. So I'll multiply top and bottom of this one by cosine of u. Now, why? Why do I do that switcheroo thing? Because that makes the two denominators the same. That's what we mean by common. See how they're the same? They're both sine, cosine, sine, cosine, sine u, cosine u. See how we've made them exactly the same, which is common. Common means same. So common denominator means make the two denominators the same. And so that means you need to multiply by the other denominator to make the two denominators the same. See how that works? So now, and of course you have to do the same thing top and bottom. See how I'm doing the same thing top and bottom to a fraction? Because if you multiply the top and the bottom of a fraction by the same thing, then you don't really change it, right? Think about numbers. What if I had 2/3 and I multiplied the top by 2 and the bottom by 2? What would I get? 4/6, which is the same as 2/3. How do I know? If I reduced it, if I divided by 2 top and bottom, it'd go right back to 2/3. 4/6 is the same as 2/3. It just looks different, right? That's why we're multiplying. It's because we multiply the top and bottom by the same number. So when we're multiplying top and bottom by the same thing, we're not really changing the fractions. We're just making them look different. So it makes it legal, so to speak, because we can't change anything. All right, so now what do we get? What is sine times sine here? Well, that's going to be sine squared over, what's on the bottom? Sine cosine. Sine u, cosine u. Plus, and then right here, so that was sine times sine is sine squared. And cosine times cosine is cosine squared, isn't it? Good there. So I just multiplied the two sines, got sine squared, multiplied the two cosines, got cosine squared. And now, what does that equal? Well, do you recognize this? Sine squared plus cosine squared? That's going to become really important for you to recognize. It's going to come up a ton in this section. Sine squared plus cosine squared. Let's go look at our formula sheet. See it right here? Sine squared plus cosine, even got a box around it, is 1. Very important. It's called a Pythagorean identity because it's like a squared plus b squared is c squared. It's a Pythagorean theorem formula is what it basically is. So sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. So whenever you see sine squared plus cosine squared, just replace it with 1. So we come back here and go, oh, okay. So this is just going to be 1. This whole numerator is just 1. And the bottom is still the same, sine u, cosine u. And so we're done there. Notice I kind of scribbled over it a little bit, but see how they want us to write it 1? They said take the original tangent plus cotangent and rewrite it as 1 over f of u. And then they say, what's f of u? Well, f of u is that, because it's supposed to be 1 over f of u. So whatever's on the bottom underneath the 1, that's the f of u, and that's what they're asking me for in the answer here. So f of u is sine u times cosine u. That's f of u. That's what they want you to put in the box there. And that's the answer to our question. So do you see how we simplified that? We went to our formula sheet, we plugged in tangent is sine over cosine, cotangent is cosine over sine. Then we multiplied top and bottom by the other denominator to get a common denominator. And then we combined them, realized sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. And we were able to finish the problem from there. So that's not easy. It's going to take